だ一人迷い込む旅の中で
Spice and Wolf is a 24-episode series split between two 12-episode seasons covering only the first 3 volumes of the light novels, written by Isuna Hasakura and illustrated by Ju Ayakura, going by the same name. Make sure to jot that down as that will play a huge part in my final verdict. The first season of Spice and Wolf was created by the relatively unheard of studio Imagine, who brought us great shows such as... No, I've got nothing. In the winter season of 2008, while the second season, strangely enough, was created by the much more known Brainspace in the summer season of the following year and took over the project while amazingly still keeping the exact same staff in almost every department, most importantly the director Takeo Takahashi and the voice actors. So, with that brief intro out of the way, I bring you a review of the rather lovely Spice and Wolf. Let's get straight into the review. The phrase, never judge a book by its cover, becomes very prominent here. Spice and Wolf is a ludicrously dialogue-heavy, medieval fantasy-esque anime, involving the daily lives of our two main characters, as they pass from town to town trying to make as much money as they can, through some rather shady dealings, while also moving towards their end goal of getting to the north in one piece.
Winter is coming.
So what is this show really about? If you used to ask most people that question, you'd more often than not get the rather bland response of economics. But when pressed to offer up more information, they may alter their answer very slightly, to economics, but with a wolf girl. And while I do rather hate that elementary description of this show, I am forced to begrudgingly fess up and admit, it's rather true. However, it's this wolf girl that takes this show from being a bland economic circle jerk and propels it into anime greatness. This wolf girl goes by the name of Holo. Yes, Holo with an L, not Horo with an R, just because I said so. She is a wolf deity of good crops and has taken the human form of a rather attractive young woman. She has come to the realisation that the people of the village no longer need her to watch over their wheat and grant them successful crops, as they have progressed in ways of agriculture, and most believe her to be nothing more than an urban legend. Due to this, she wishes for nothing more than to return to her homeland in the north, Yoitz.
Winter is coming.
But unfortunately, Holo is a wolf goddess who must reside within stocks of wheat, so her only method of escape is through our other main character, Lawrence, who just so happens to be transferring some wheat. Lawrence, or otherwise known as Craft Lawrence, while travelling the country in order to make a living, stops by the little town of Pass Road during their annual harvest festival, where they give thanks to the wolf goddess I previously mentioned, and since one of his business partners happens to be tied up in the activities of the festival, he's invited to stay in the village at his own leisure. That night, Lawrence is surprised to find a naked girl sleeping in his wagon, and becomes even more surprised when she turns out to be a little more than a mere sleeping beauty. After coming to terms with the fact that Holo is without a shadow of a doubt a wolf goddess, Lawrence agrees to transport her, and the two begin to travel with one another. Now this is where the word economics comes in, as Lawrence is a travelling merchant who has to try incredibly hard just to feed himself. He has to conduct business in order to turn a worthwhile profit, and all 4 of the show's main arcs revolve around this. What makes this story of an average peddler's daily activities more interesting is the inclusion of Holo, who is perhaps one of the most memorable female leads of any show that at least I have watched. She loves to refer to herself as Holo the Wise Wolf, but behind her charismatic and dignified exterior, she's actually quite lonely, and she helps to move the plot forward using her, well, 600 years of experience to help Lawrence in his endeavours. Now Lawrence, while not quite as memorable as the lovely Holo, he is by no means forgettable, and for a rather strange reason, which is that he's a normal person. He doesn't fall under one simple stereotype that you can stick on him. He has faults just like you or me or anybody else, and this really helps to flesh out his character and make him a really likeable and relatable character. And while they're 2 rather enjoyable characters on their own, it's when you put them both together that something truly special is spawned. The way our 2 main characters interact with each other, the little arguments and the misunderstandings the 2 of them have, the way the both of them play little tricks on each other, and the way they almost always have an instant comeback for whatever trick or snarky comment the other one laid down previously. And then as the show progresses, you see how the things they do and say to one another gain a whole different kind of weight and meaning. the way they try to think more diligently about the things they say and the ways it could affect their relationship. This results in the two of them being almost completely unable to tell the other one how they truly feel, and when they do try to express their true emotions, they either backtrack and make a joke out of it, or the other person will become timid and shy and do the exact same thing in order to relieve the tension. And in the end, this ends up being one of the show's most fatal flaws. I'm not saying that I dislike this, it's just that so much time is spent repeating these processes over and over again that we are forced to endure this show's rather lackluster ending. At first glance, you may think that the animation is one of this show's major drawbacks. However, it's actually one of Imagine's crowning achievements. It's not overly flashy with detail or fluidity like some other studios, but it's done a fantastic job of setting the tone and atmosphere for this show. The only other thing to really note about the animation is how in the second season it increases very slightly in quality. The style stays almost exactly the same, however simple things like outlines of characters and colours are just better animated, most likely due to the increase in budget thanks to the move over to Brainbase. This show's music is a mixed bag of simple yet elegant period pieces that focus heavily on what appears to be the recorder and piccolo, no, the instrument, to help pace the more peaceful parts of the plot. But it is in no means restricted to that, especially when the plot decides to speed up and go all Princess Mononoke on us. The openings for both season 1 and 2 are, well, they're beautiful. That's really the only way I can think to describe them. They are great because they are one of the very few openings which actually encapsulates the feeling of the show to an absolute T. The ending to season 1 is a beautiful example of the English that I love so dearly, with season's 2 ending also being quite enjoyable. When it comes to the conversation of dub versus sub, I will often stay out of it, as I am a fan of both in almost all cases, as I believe both the actors and actresses perform far better than I would have ever expected. However, for Spice and Wolf, I have to admit I'm heavily leaning towards the corner of the dub, even if just for those dialogue heavy scenes where the characters discuss things that most of the time will go straight over your head. But there is one defining reason to watch this show dubbed, and that is Brina Palencia's portrayal of Holo. She doesn't just portray the character, she becomes it. Whenever I think of Holo now, I imagine her with Brina's smug and charismatic, yet quietly caring voice. Her emotional range is almost unparalleled by any other female performance I've seen thus far, and the only other performance I can think of where a voice actor played a character so well is Crispin Freeman as Alucard from Hellsing. She isn't the only one either, she is accompanied by other great performances, such as J. Michael Tatum, no, not that Tatum, as Kraft Lawrence, and a host of impressive performances which we have come to expect from Funimation to round out the cast. Speaking of some of these glaring issues, why don't I take a moment to talk about them here? First of all, the story is very much there only to give a reason for our two main characters staying together, and when the story attempts to get overly serious and make us question whether or not they will part ways, it becomes really difficult to believe when you realise there is still half a season to go. And the biggest crime that this series commits is that ending. I'm going to use a phrase stolen straight from Arcada of Glass Reflections' mouth. The ending is paramount, and the Spice Wolf ending was shit. But with that aside, I believe it's time for the final score. So with all of that in mind, I've carefully calculated the scores for story, characters, animation, sound, and of course my own personal enjoyment, added them up and divided them by the number of categories, being 5. I score the Delightful Spice and Wolf a score of 7.3 out of 10, and a solid recommendation to buy it, as the DVDs are crazy cheap in the UK. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you know where to go. If you fancy a chat about this series or what else you'd like me to review, comment down below, and of course, share it with your friends as that helps beyond belief. So with all of that, see you later, chaps.
A faint clap of thunder. Clouded skies. Perhaps rain comes. And if so, stay with me.